Today's learning target is I can find a constant rate of change and identify proportional and non-proportional relationships. So yesterday, if you recall, we found the rates of change in graphs. And to do that, we took the change in the y over the change in the x. So we picked any 2 points on a graph, and we found the change in the y, and then we put that over the change in the x, and that told us the rate of change. So if we pick these 2 points right here and right here, we can see that the change in the y is going to go from 2 right here to 4. So that would be 2 is the change in the y. And the change in x, we started here and then we went to here. So the change in x would be from 1 to 2 would be 1. So the rate of change would be 2 heartbeats per 1 second. So when we have a graph that has a straight line, just like that, it's called a linear relationship. And basically a linear relationship, linear means line and relationship. So this graph has a straight line, it has a linear relationship. And linear relationships have what we call a constant rate of change. So these two graphs right here are linear relationships. Okay, we can see they have a straight line, which means they have a constant rate of change, which basically means the change in y is always going to be constant with the change in x at any 2 points of the line. This one right here is not a linear relationship. It's not a straight line. And as a result, it won't have a constant rate of change. We can see the relationship between the x and the y is not always constant, or it's not always the same. So this problem here asks us to find the rate of change for the radius of circle 1. You can see that's this line right here, and then we're going to interpret its meaning. So we know that to find the rate of change, we're always going to do the change in the y over the change in the x. Now the way to write this in math terms, the change in y, we can write that this way. Put a triangle, that means the change in y over the change in x. So get into the habit of this because we're going to be using this in upcoming lessons, and you'll continue to use this in math in future years as well. So that triangle means the change. So the change in y over the change in x, which is how we find the rate of change. So this is a linear equation, a straight line. So I can pick any 2 points and I can find the rate of change. So I'm going to pick those 2 points right there. So I wrote the coordinates of the 2 points right here, and I'm going to take a look at the change in y. Okay, so the y at this point was at 5, and here at this point the y went to a 4. So it went down 1. It was a decrease of 1. Okay, so I'm going to write that the change in y was a negative 1, and now the change in x went from this point right here, we were at a 2, and then it went to a 4. A 6 right here. So it went from a 2 to a 6. So that was from 2 to 6, an increase of 4. So now we just interpret what this negative 1 over 4, the rate of change, means. And we can see the y-axis was the radius of the circle in centimeters, and the x-axis was the number of seconds. So what that means is the radius of the circle decreased by 1 centimeter every 4 seconds. Or if we divided this out, okay, negative 1 divided by 4 would be 25 hundredths centimeters per second. So when we interpret what it means, and I could write this out, I could say that the radius of the circle decreased by 0.25 or 25 hundredths of a centimeter every second. In today's assignment, you're going to be asked if there's a proportional linear relationship between the points on a graph. And to do that, it's pretty simple. So here's how you'll figure out if the points are proportional. Okay? So we're just going to start off, and we're going to take a look at, in this case, the cost of the trail mix in proportion to the weight. So we can see at this point right here, the cost is going to be $14, and again, that's going to be on the top. That's our y-axis. So we're going to have that $14 on the top, and that is for 4 pounds. Okay, now this point right here is $28 for 8 pounds. So $28 for 8 pounds. So to find out if these are proportional, let's just simplify one or both of these down. Now I'm going to take a look at this one right here because I can see that if I divide both of these by 2, it's going to give me an equivalent fraction or an equivalent proportion, and that's going to give me 14 over 4, which is equal, obviously the same as this one. So they are proportional. Now, if you couldn't do that, or if when you simplified one of these down and it did not equal the other one, then in that case they wouldn't be proportional. Okay, but in this case they are proportional.